It always comes to this. More nice shit. Morning guys, back again to do another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I'd showed off all the gold thorns and the new like lighter blue tips. We used two separate blues for the tips. We used blue mist and sky blue or blue sky fusion. All the color inks that we've been using over my black is fusion based, and as you can see, it was like it did make a difference to do the blue tips again, but like it was always going to be subtle because they were more like white than they were like light blue still, and the difference between light blue and white isn't much, but it's one of those things that it has more relevance in an overall look. So for example, if you're looking at this sleeve as an entire entity, the blue does pop more against that purple and red and the dark red background and all these things than it did prior. It has more of a visual blue than it did a white. You can see the comparison in my neck here where these were done twice. The blue is a little more blue in the roses on my sleeve, even if just a little bit. I'm a perfectionist, so those little things matter to me. I'm one to iron out all the creases, even if it's just an excuse to continue the project. The yellow was really the highlight of it, no pun intended, being that there are, you know, bright yellow highlights in here. The yellow had more of a visual difference, and we got more or less a better result at the top. Seems like my inner bicep takes ink incredibly well, and even my ditch on this side takes ink really, really well. And then towards the lower arm and the forearm and the wrist area, it's a little duller, but it's still a good result. Again, going to be doing these same ideas on the hand. We did the light blue, but we need to do the dark, like the black around the rose again, and we need to do the bright red. And I want to bring a bit more of that spider web down onto the knuckles and things like this to break up some of that horrible scar tissue that I've gone over ad nauseum in these videos. I don't feel the need to repeat about in this one. So today I actually have a session coming up later on with Terry where we're going to do everything that we've done on the arm to the neck, meaning the light blue highlights, the yellow and the thorns, and the bright red high points in the dark red, and a little bit more black shading. So I don't think it's going to be a very long session. I'm thinking probably around 2 hours. It's just a bit of fuck around. It's a lot of different little things, but it's not an entire sleeve stretch. Again, this whole sleeve was redone basically, other than the purple and the turquoise and the dark red. The whole thing was redone in 2 weeks. And before I carry on to my current tattoo update, I will say I have a little bit of sadness because, and you could say I've been to this point a couple times with this sleeve, maybe multiple times, multiple tens of times over the years. But like now I really do think that unless I want to add more of these bright red highlights, this sleeve, other than the hand, is basically done. Like, you could say maybe I could touch up the purple or something. The purple's the color I want it to be, so I don't really want it to be any brighter or you know, clearer. I like the color of the purple and the red and the roses, and you know, you could always make that turquoise brighter if you wanted. Like, there's theoretical things that I could do to extend the life of this sleeve, and I'm not saying I won't do those, but the overall image of this sleeve is more or less complete. And the only way that I'm going to do anything new with it is if I were to, say, black it out and just create a whole new one. Which, by the way, I do think that's doable. I think it'd be a lot of work. And if I was so inclined, I do believe that's doable. People ask me quite often. We did that same thing with the eye on my sternum. That is several blackout layers. So there's been all kinds of designs there that have been black and then colored over and blacked out and colored over again. So that's always an option. But it scales with your patience, how far you want to go with this stuff. And like I kind of get to a place where, like, throughout the many years I've been working on this, I have more and less patience for it as time goes on. And my patience is wearing thin for it, not because I'm getting tired of the pain or the healing or anything. I just, you get bored after a while. And also I feel like everything that I wanted to prove with this, I feel like I already know that the rest of what I would like to do with it is doable. There's just about no thing that I can think of that I think is impossible anymore. And I think a lot of the fun of it for me has been the experimentation and the new frontier sort of mindset of figuring things out, if they'll work or not. Whereas now that I know, there really is nothing you can't do if you want to. And I don't give a fuck what some tired ass checked out tattooer will try and tell you. If you're patient enough, you can do pretty well anything. It doesn't even matter if the artist you're going to is the best artist in the world or anything like that. I've been working with local guys the whole time. There are these people who think that they necessarily need to travel. That's not the case. It is hard to find someone who has an open mind. I will grant you that. That's the biggest superpower in this whole fucking industry. Find someone who doesn't have their head lodged 2 or 3 feet up their ass. That's a fucking hard thing to do. I had someone ask me if I could make a video on the topic of finding an artist willing to take these projects on, and honestly, it's just like, to me, anyone that can pack color can do this, and the real difficulty is finding someone with an open mind. But I digress. On that note, I am facing towards the end of my torso work relatively quickly here. In terms of the pace I cut, I've been going hard for a minute, if you haven't been paying attention. I'm going to be hitting the tentacles on my torso again here real soon. And from there, I have a few things to do after that I want to kind of buff up and tweak, but there will be a real shift, and there won't be as many of these vlogs, maybe not immediately after, but obviously the vlogs have been just a journey of my tattoos, and I never really meant for them to be anything more than that. So I don't expect that I'll be doing as many vlogs, and the people that think that I do this shit just to make money off of it, you couldn't be any more wrong. I was doing this long before YouTube, and I just thought when I started doing the vlogs, I was about to go through this huge transformation with the blackout stuff really quick. I was already started in it when I started the vlogs, and I thought it would be kind of cool to have something to look back on one day and go, hell of a ride I was on, what a journey, I feel like it was always more as like an online diary, like some kind of an archive of the road that I went on. I wish I had started it from the beginning, to be honest, but I would be going back to almost the beginning of YouTube for all that. Well, realistically, the beginning of YouTube. When did YouTube start? 2005, 2006? Yeah, I would have been starting along with YouTube. But anyway, if I go back to piercings, it would have been long before that. Whatever the case. I had another session, obviously. You've already seen the thumbnail. Rick here. And we did this chunk of my armpit area. And it's still a little stiff to hold my arm up. Obviously, you can see how everything else healed here. I should mention all of this stuff is healed now. We did last week. This should be no surprise. I heal really quick. You can't even tell probably which part of that arm I had tattooed. So, for the people who push back when I say I heal quick, I've had people say, oh, no one heals faster than anyone. It's physiologically impossible. You're fucking out to lunch. Fuck off. I don't know why people like that think that they're like, their opinion on the matter is scientific. But I just had 2 people with near full bodysuits in here the other day, and one of them heals 10 times faster than the other. They're a fucking couple. The dude's healed usually in 2 or 3 days, and it takes her over a week. So there is something to that. Maybe it's health or fucking general fitness or your body, your DNA, your chemical makeup. There's something to it, though. It's not just in my head, as some morons will try and have you believe. Anyway, so Rick did the black in and around the teeth down here, and obviously we have to come back in at least one more time, probably 2 more times, maybe even 3 more times, because this whole area we'll want to do a second pass on. But the monster face is looking really cool. If I could, lift my arm up fully, I would be able to show you better, but I really like the direction it's taken. And it's one of the coolest parts of the sleeve, I think. I like most of the sleeve. There are some things in there that I feel like were counterintuitive, but I've learned a lot working on the sleeve, and so it's been annoying at times, but it hasn't been a bad journey. It's been a positive one, and I've learned a lot about all kinds of things I never would have even expected. So I will say I've had my armpit, inner arm area tattooed 14 or 15 times on that side now, and there are people who are afraid to do it once. There are people who will never do that. There are people with full body suits that don't do their armpits out of a mixture of tradition and fear, and the excuses that people will make about, oh, well, I won't be able to use deodorant for a few days. Like, Jesus Christ, you'll be back to deodorant in no time, I promise you. Use some fucking cologne in the meantime. It's not that painful, honest to God. The lead up to the armpit is worse than the armpit, and that counts the chest, the side, and the inner bicep are all worse than the actual armpit. Once you get in there, it can take a beating. It's really sturdy. It's got a really thick kind of tissue. It heals really easily. It kind of naturally moistens itself, so you don't need much aftercare, if any. If anything, if you put too much, it'll be soppy. You don't want it to be like thick and wet. And in your creases, this happens in your ditch and your knee ditch as well, and in your crotch, for anyone who gives a shit. Well, if you ever have your inner butt cheeks tattooed, these are areas that are naturally moist. You don't need a lot of aftercare in there. Your body is naturally oily enough in some areas to more or less not dry out. And in fact, I went incredibly minimal here because I have a really, really big dip here where this is not a flex. This is not a flex, I promise. I'm not that guy. I have a big round bicep here, and for anyone else who ever has this done, you can get a really bad tear in here. I've had that happen before. So because there's so much movement, you can even see it here. That whole area in there is prone to bad healing and stays fairly moist. It traps moisture. Yeah, same thing back here. Anywhere that you have a lot of sort of round curvature in your body, these bendy areas, they heal a little worse sometimes. So yeah, it's just better to keep it. You don't want it completely dry, but you want it fairly moist, and a good balance is key for that. But definitely don't overdo it with that stuff. So yeah, the only other thing I would say about armpits is pretty well every time I've worked on my armpit has been during summer. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it is. It's not like I planned it that way. But having a sticky, hot, sweaty armpit in summer kind of sucks. It does. Probably would be better to do it in winter when you're, a little drier. It's a little colder. It doesn't have that goopy kind of nasty feeling. That's really the worst part. Also, it feels less like you're being cut up or needled or whatever you want to say. It's less sharp and more like bruisey. It's always felt to me more like you just got worked over with a baseball bat. I've said this on other armpit videos. You can go back and check. It's always more like, you got beat up rather than you got sliced up or torn up with a tattoo needle or something. There's all kinds of different feelings, because when I get my stomach tattooed soon here, that feels very, very cutty. It feels very sharp, and I don't like that, right? I would rather the armpit than the stomach, for example. So if you've got your stomach tattooed and not your armpit, this is my opinion on it, but the armpit is leagues and bounds more pleasant than sitting for your stomach, or most areas on your inner thighs, or your lower back, or your throat. Or there's so many worse ones, and I'm actually in for my throat today. So if you think that the armpit is bad, then I guess I'm just in a marathon of awful this week. But I don't think I've got much to do there, like I said. Anyway, I'll be talking to you guys here again tomorrow, and I'm expecting a really cool result. So yeah. All right, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.